Okay, so here we are. This is one of quite a few videos in a little tranche that I'm filming today on the afternoon. It's only about 4:45, but it's really dark. It's dusk. Sunset's pretty early at this time of year. I think we're close to the shortest day of the year here in New Zealand. It's early evening now, late afternoon really if you look at your clock, but if you look at the light, it's dusk. It's early evening of Wednesday the 12th of June 2024. So this will be number 8, to clarify. I'm gonna call it, this one is fulfilled. You can make of it what you will. We're out here with any agenda. I'm not out to say, I get prophetic dreams, I'm a prophet. That's not what this is about. It's not about me. The purpose of the channel is to help you guys. That's why I'm doing this. It's not about the messenger, it's about the message. And at a wider level, it's not about me, because it's mine, just one thread. Collectively, all my prophetic dreams represent just one thread from one person in a vast tapestry of hundreds of thousands of threads, but only some thousands are on YouTube. Ultimately, I believe millions of people actually globally are having these prophetic dreams from God of World War III, and if everyone was putting all their threads together, we'd have a very detailed picture. Enough people are putting in their prophetic dreams of World War III from God out here on YouTube that we can weave them together into a fairly detailed, complex tapestry and get a pretty good future history of what's coming. So it's about the collective effort and helping you guys in the message. It's not about me. So dude, if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be wrong. I'm using the scientific method. Frickin' yeah. I've made mistakes in the past, but I've developed a fairly solid screening process to screen that the dreams are from God. And when I use that and when I screen them correctly and I haven't messed it up, pretty much 100%, 100% of the time they come true. I haven't had any not come true when I've screened them properly, but what I've found is that dreams can be tricky. Dreams are notoriously tricky. There are all kinds of ways. Well, negative spirits can feed you disinformation, and that's one of the key aspects. If you have some vices, some attachments, some desires, some fears, they can jack in on all of those and feed you disinfo. There's other ways they can give you disinfo. You can get confused. Dreaming is very tricky. You have to be careful in the dream realm. There are tricksters in the astral, in the dream realm, just in the spiritual realm, and con artists as there are in the physical realm. So why am I saying all this? Well, it's because I'm explaining to you why I'd waited so long, because I think it's been 8 months, 8 or 9 months now, since I think 8 months since the war between Israel and Palestine. It's really bigger than that. On Wikipedia they say it's Israel versus Hamas. That's BS. Israel is getting a ton of support from the US. I think some other countries as well, mainly the US. But then it's not just Hamas. They're fighting Iran through proxies, and there's Hezbollah in Lebanon, and then the Houthis in Yemen, and then Shia? I think Shia, or Shiite militias in Iraq. I'll correct myself in the description box below if I'm wrong. I think, from memory, two main branches of Islam are Sunni and Shia, or Shiite. And the Shiite branch is based in Iran, and the Sunni branch is in most of the rest of the Middle East. It's not really Israel versus Hamas. It's a bit more complicated than that. But that war's been raging for 8 months now, and I just did that extended preamble because I wanted to explain. I wanted to wait and be sure before I called it, and I'm not waiting to say as soon as I can, hey, I got it right, look, it fulfilled, the dream fulfilled. No, I wanted to wait and take my time and say, hey, I'm pretty sure what I got shown has now happened. Well, I'm confident it has, so I'm going to call that as fulfilled. That dream I posted. I posted that video about 8 months ago. I put the link in the description box below about how I was shown then Then it was in the future, but it's now happening now. It's happening now. I mean, if you go back and watch it, what you'll see is that I'll be showing Russia preparing for a vast new offensive on Ukraine at a time when the world's attention via the media would be more focused in terms of global conflict and what was happening in Israel. Well, that's exactly what we're seeing right now. There's a huge Russian offensive all across eastern Ukraine, a massive offensive. They're taking new cities and towns and villages almost every day, really punching through the Ukrainian lines. And it's just as I was shown, that they're taking advantage of the fact that the thing in Israel is getting more media attention. They're kind of, you're not seeing much in the media about it, but if you look into it, they're taking huge amounts of territory. And it's huge advances, and like it's a massive offensive right along the eastern front. And I mean, it's concentrated in certain areas. I mean, certain parts of the front are quieter, but basically it's it's not the entire front, but it's a huge offensive on many different parts of that front, with colossal numbers of troops, and they're using. I mean, there's so much to talk about. It's you can look into it, but just to mention a few things, they're using these glide bombs. Russians have air superiority in a lot of the sectors, so they're bombing Ukrainian positions with military aircraft a lot more. Russia has a lot more artillery than Ukraine. I did a previous video, I'll put a link to that in the description box below, where I talk about how I think it's at least it was either a 5-1 or a 10-1 advantage in terms of how many shells the Russians are firing at Ukraine each day. That kind of, that persists. And I think it was it the Battle of Avdiivka? I think that's been, I'll correct myself in the description box if I'm wrong, that was won in this period since I posted that one. That was like the Battle of Bakhmut. Bakhmut was a huge battle and very important battle in the war. Just like I think it's Avdiivka or Avdiivka. Forgive my mistake or mispronunciation if I've made a mistake there. I will correct myself in the description box below, but geez, I'm sorry about my finger. Look, still a stressful point in my life. Don't have a huge amount of money. I'm just kind of making the best of things as I can. I'm shooting this on my little crappy smartphone. Better to get it out there and have it a little bit rough than nothing at all, right? Okay, so I'm doing my best. I know it's not perfect. But I mean, back when I posted that video, I think it was still pretty much the Ukrainian, either it was the Ukrainians were still doing their counter-offensive, which failed miserably, not to say it in a judgmental sense, it's just kind of tragedy. I endeavored to take a neutral stance in this war, so I'm not, I'm sort of neutral on the Russian-Ukraine conflict. I'm just staying out of it, but I just see it as tragic on all levels. When Russians die, when Ukrainians die, I just see the whole thing as tragic. But however you look at it, the Ukrainian counteroffensive failed miserably. There wasn't a huge Russian offensive, the one that's happening now, going on at the time. 8 months ago, I was showing the Russians preparing for it, and then they were about to do it, and then they did it. They were preparing to do it. They were about to do it in the dream, and then obviously they did it after they'd prepared. And then the time I was showing that dream they were doing it would be at a time in the future when the war in Israel would be drawing most of the media attention. And it's 8 months later. No one knew back in October 2023 that war would still be going on. Israel versus, Palestine, basically. Predominantly Hamas, but many other Palestinian militant factions. No one had any idea that war would still be going on, and that Russia would be making a big offensive. I mean, you could argue that you could expect it, which you certainly could, but it doesn't change the fact that what I got shown 8 months ago in a prophetic dream is now reality. It's happened. So, I mean, I'm seeking truth here. I'm not seeking to be right. If I'm wrong, I'll admit it. But the dream fulfilled. I mean, so that's number 8. you're not seeing so much in the Western media about what's happening in Ukraine right now. In fact, a lot of people who get their news from corporate sources, who don't look into it, who don't do their own research, or actually think that the Ukrainians are winning. I've actually heard people parrot that statement as recently as 4 or 5 weeks ago from some guy who had just seen something on MSN News. It's almost difficult to believe, but if people can be under the illusion that Ukraine is winning and that Russia will soon lose the war, which is beyond insane, you have to be really out of touch to think that, then you know that, the media really isn't covering it very well, because I don't know why. They don't want people to know we're losing. There's a lot of media intrigue around it, but most of the media attention's focused on the Israel-Palestine thing. We're hearing almost not a peep, not much, very little in the Western media right now about what's happening in Ukraine and about the fact that the Russians are making enormous gains. So the Russians are taking advantage of the fact, for better or worse, that most of the Western media coverage is on Israel, and probably isn't an accident either, because if you look into it, Russia's supporting Hamas and Iran with weapons, just like Iran supports Russia with weapons. Russia has been using a lot of Iranian drones in their attacks on Ukraine. So, they're probably taking advantage of the fact that a lot of, Western money and arms are being diverted to Israel. So they're having to split their support now between Israel. I'm more specifically talking about the US now. The US is having to split their support of money and weapons between Israel and Ukraine now. It's not all just going to Ukraine. A lot's going to Israel. And then, the dream 8 months ago showed me that the offensive was about to happen, and then it started happening. This is happening, and what's happening now. I was shown in the dream like the seconds and the day before it began. When at a time when all the media coverage would be focused disproportionately on Israel and their fight with the Palestinians. And I apologize if I repeated myself a little bit too much here, but it's not up for debate, I don't think, really. I'm not trying to prove anything. I don't have a case. I'm not trying to make myself out to be anyone. I just report what I'm shown. I'm just here to help people and to warn people. It's not about me, it's about the message. And it's not about me in the sense, it's also about the collective message that myself and many others are putting out. I'm just one thread in a vast tapestry, but it's self-evident. I was shown that stuff 8 months ago, and it's happening now. So I'm calling that number 8. So that one's fulfilled. Thank you for your time. Cheers.